I'm going to call this Something to Ponder, and it's subtitled, What Do People Go Through Who Get Robbed? So, what do people have to deal with when they get robbed, basically? And what do they go? What kind of things do they go through? And I think people should ponder that because a lot of homeless people are people who have been robbed sometimes. Uh, some people who are depressed or frustrated or have to battle being irritable or may have been due to times they have been robbed. But there's bigger things people lose when they get robbed, depending on what is robbed from them. So, and especially in certain parts of society, our society has not protected many people or wants to view nobody as victims, but these are true victims. People who get robbed are true victims. So that's a case where it's not, when we talk about false victimhood, we're talking about, you always hear that and they act like there's no such thing as a victim. But that's because that's talked about in politics, pretty much only in politics, and they're referring to all this fake politics about acting like you're somebody's a victim of slavery from 100, 200 years ago, almost, right? It's almost 200. No, it's 100 and almost, it's going on 250 years from now. Wait, let me add that up. 40 years, younger than me. I'm 51. So maybe 40 years. I'm not going to check my math. I got to get to my other points. But 30 or 40 years from now, it'll be 200 years since slavery. And people are not victims of that. Now, they are victims of today's slavery. The same people who complain about that slavery are actually have their own slaves. A lot of them, right? So, and it's the drug cartel slavery, it's the gang slavery, it's the being bullies and the thief market, right? So, I don't want to analyze that right now, how they got there, if they're there by choice and all that. Some of them are, I would say, we haven't talked about the issue. Some people don't realize what they're doing. There's a lot of that. But what about their victims? They create the most victims of crime, actually, of stealing. But that's not what we're here to talk about. But we're talking about how bad it is to steal some things from people, in a sense. Like if you steal a poor person's car. So if somebody steals a poor person's car, not you, somebody, and possibly you, but if somebody steals a poor person's car, uh, and they don't have full coverage insurance, they don't get a replacement car. I don't know if they do, even if they don't do a police report. Well, our system now, it doesn't protect people if they were intoxicated or hanging around drugs or this or that, and that's kind of strange, I think. But that's the case. But there's a lot of people, they won't mention that, and they know who stole their item, and they'll tell it without uh, uh, putting themselves in a place of fault of any kind. And uh, police are going to have to respect that and try to do something about the car, right? But in general, if somebody loses a car and they're poor and they don't have full coverage, they have no kind of replacement for the car. And they're poor, they're stuck. A lot of them, that's a big deal. I mean, they worked hard for it. They got all their money, all their income went to that. If they're low income, sometimes that goes most of it or half of it. I don't know. A big part of their income goes to that. So some people are depressed. Now that's a weakness. They get depressed. They don't feel like buying another one. They just spent that money on that. That's when you got a small amount of money. But I won't go into that. If they have budgeting problems, they don't feel like that. And nobody feels like it. But there's some that get depressed and actually just can't. They just after that, that's enough to beat them up and cause them to say screw up a lot after that, I suppose. So people can really be depressed. But what's the worst thing? The biggest thing that happens if they're in that state, they're beyond the college years, let's say, and they lose friends. You steal somebody's car, they lose friends, and here's why: they can't go to birthday parties. They can't go to a party and leave when they want to leave. You know, if they go to a party, somebody else took them to a party to visit, say, family or whatever. So they lose friends, and for years, and then they people hate them. That they don't know all that's going on. They think that you know they just never came to visit. They don't care about anybody but themselves. So they have people hating them, thinking up all these things. And the truth is, they can't afford to go, or if they want to go to a party and show some love and have some good social time, they don't have time to stay there as long as the people who would have carried them there or whatever. Those kind of things. So that's just one example of how people lose. You can steal one thing from a person. That's one of probably the biggest example. But you can steal one thing from a person, and you've stolen a whole lot more than just that item. When it comes to something like a car, you've stolen their family relationships. You've stolen because because that person has to be a part of making those relationships work by visiting, being friendly, and to the best of their ability. And everybody has different schedules, different goals. So anyway, that there's a ricochet effect of it. So it's a big deal when stealing is legal, and it's a sport in America. Stealing is actually a sport uh, with the drug cartel. It's a job. It's not just a sport. It's actually a business, and that's the police. It's a business that police allow. It's a business that the the modern day churches put their stamp on. They're like, oh, go if somebody's using drugs, uh, please steal everything they have, kill them. We don't care. That's and the gangs know that. They know that nobody cares. So because we've been falsely taught to demonize those medicine. We've demonized medicine and some over others, and that's kind of probably the root cause of it. And so we're not educated about what medicine is, and we're not educated about all that. But the truth is, it's those are based off of medicine things. So you're stealing the truth. You're stealing reality. The truth is not easy on that because it's easy to fall for thinking that being getting drunk shouldn't be illegal. A lot of people think they should make alcohol illegal because of DUIs that have innocent people have been hit and killed by a drunk driver. And so people they get angry. First of all, when you're deciding justice, though, you're not supposed to use anger to make your decisions. You're not supposed to use anger and vengeance to make your decisions. And there could be better laws to that help people be more responsible who have had alcohol problems and stuff like that. But instead, we're focused on so many other things by making other medicines illegal and then demonizing addicts instead of making producers be more responsible. So even producers of alcohol could be a little more responsible, maybe, or rehab should be more responsible and be more honest about this is a rehab for this particular drug. This is a rehab to stay off illegal stuff they've made illegal. But it's not a rehab to really help you with addiction. So the truth is, I don't mean to go into that subject because that's a big analysis of something I work on a lot. But I go into that subject because it is a root cause of why we're not against stealing in this country. We are and we aren't, because first of all, the cartels and people who steal from people, you don't steal from them, or they will punish you, and they're not thinking of whether it's fair to punish somebody or not. They will punish you to the full extent of their law, and they will break the thing they vote against, which is the death penalty, and they will give you the death penalty right away, many a times. I'll say most of the time. I mean, almost most of the time, they'll threaten it. They'll beat you or whatever. They'll beat you. They'll tie you up to a tree. I've known somebody who's tied up to a tree and beaten before, but I know that story from the person who it happened to, And that's I've never told anybody that before, but I knew that. And that's what they do. And I don't know if that person they did it to that person for stealing, or if they did it to them for their because they weren't because they were gay. And I'm not gay, just for, but that's somebody who's gay that I knew. And but they were in the gang. They were a gangster. They weren't just a gay person who's walking in the peaceful path. So um, that's they do those things, right? They take the law into their own hands, and we allow it based on because we have a segregation based on the drug laws, and we call people who aren't racist racist. We demonize drugs. We call people racist who aren't racist in order to keep segregation going to support the gangs that they have their own laws and they have their death penalty. Then they vote against the death penalty in our society to keep their people, their whole posse going who kills people. I mean, that's something kind of new I figured out recently and connected the dot. That's real, true, and active. I mean, it's every day. It's not just a. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's happening. It's regular. I mean, it's a real thing. So 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 we should ponder what people go through who get robbed, and that what's the word I went? That includes. I couldn't think of that word. I was wanting to think of the word that starts with a C instead of an I. Includes, because clues is in there. So that includes people who are addicts. They should be. Uh, we shouldn't segregate them from being robbed and allow them to be robbed. And but it's hard to get around it though because you'd have to have some legal venues. And what we've done is we've actually gone after psychiatrists more than we've gone after the street dealers who violently hurt people and steal from people. So if you could twist that, there can be more done. And you know what? It doesn't mean you just have to go after the cartels and all that and the gangs. You have to start imploring and telling the gangs, if you're gonna do what you do it without hurting people. Stop hurting people. If you're doing it for the money, don't do it greedily for the money. Don't get greedy just because you're not under any rules to pay taxes and all that. You're dodging tax paying with what you're doing and all that. Don't get greedy because and then you want to take bigger risks, and then you're getting paranoid and you want to hurt people. So, what do other people go through? Say people who have never been affected by that directly, they get robbed. It's not fair to rob people. God grants in the Ten Commandments people's right to their own property. And that's why we have private property rights and other good things. And we should upgrade that again. We need to get back to that. We need to support the party. I'm independent, and I like being independent for a few reasons. And I do lean and support the Republican Party, but I'm independent. I've decided the Democrat Party's not even serious. I mean, they're super greedy. Talk about greedy, and they call the Republican Party greedy. The Democrat Party is super racist, and they're falsely calling people in the Republican Party racist. Their Democrat Party is racist, and they call Christians racist. They believe in evolution. Democrat Party support evolution, and they call you a hater by calling an evolution racism, and that's by its very definition. It says we have more than one race. So they're being hypocrite. They've played hypocrite a long time, and their number one target to lie to is Black Americans, and that's who they lie to the most. And so it's not the funny weird part is it's not just white Democrats lying to Black Americans. But it is that it's white Democrats lying to Black Americans, but it's also Black Muslims lying to Black Americans, and it's probably people who migrated here from Africa who were selling black slaves, and they don't ever get called out on because they've gotten so busy calling white people racist, and we're not allowed to speak. And the ones who are Christian and actually are the ones who supported ending slavery, the ones who actually are for equality with black people and white people and Chinese people and Hispanic people and Asian people and Arab people. We're all equally under God from Adam and Eve, from Noah's family after the flood. We all believe we're equally human. We have equal rights to know about God, the studies of God, and the evidences of God and Christianity, and to realize that there is no evidence that any of the other religions have a God that has shown any evidence of a second life and power beyond this earth. So that's just a real fact. And so we all have a right to put that out there. And but there is, believe it or not, in the black culture, because they've been lied to so much, in my opinion, it's part of it, and because they have a large population in Africa, and so they've lied about acting like they don't date outside of their race. They call it. I call it ethnicity. We're all one race. So a lot of people make that mistake and call us. They don't date outside of their race. Well, we're the same race. I'm the same race as a black person. You ever heard that? But I am. I'm the same race as an Indian. I'm the same race as a white person. So I'll probably do a short on that after this. See, and I know that, but I've never said it like that, right? So there's so many ways to see one point. It's good to vocalize them. And we're the same race. They're a different ethnicity, but they claim they won't date out of their their ethnicity, because, and they're being racist because they think they're going to go extinct because the racist white people. And the truth is, they're trying to make white people go extinct. The ones that do that in America, they're hoping to, and they're probably promoting abortion because they realize there's more white babies being killed than everybody realizes. All that, who knows? Because despite them, the ones that promote that, not all of them, the ones that promote it, a lot of them that do it, they do it for the reason of they're making 300 babies and all that, not getting married to one woman, and they're doing that on purpose for racist reasons. Not, and the women agree to it. They're not being used. They agree to it for being, because they're racist. Now sometimes they are being used and abused because a lot of the racists won't allow a black man to talk. I mean, a black woman to talk to a white man, and that happens more. That happens still with white people too, but it happens more in the black culture. And they use the excuse of, we're going extinct. No, you're not. You got the highest population in the world in Africa, and but everybody, all cultures should be implored. All ethnicities should be have the freedom to be implored to to live for God, the real God, the one that loves you, the one that cares for, the one that died for you. He showed love for you and me and everybody, and that shouldn't be blocked. So theft. When Africa was selling slaves, they were selling their thieves and killers to America. So a lot of times when people got the death penalty and hung, and back then they did hanging, back in those days, way back, they hung white people too that killed somebody. And some of the pictures they show, a lot of them are abuse, or some of them were prejudice, or could have been them not obeying, and went to escape. And then so some people went too far and hung, but a lot of times it was a murderer. They may have been hanging murderers the same way white people do, have been hung when they murder somebody. So I don't agree with that either, but whether it's black or white, I like today's system in some ways better, that you get time. They need more time to see if somebody will repent and rehabilitate. But I do believe that there is a point where the death penalty makes more sense than it doesn't. But I don't think we have a perfect answer on that. So, but you got to keep society safe. So, I'm getting distracted because I need a sip of water. I should have brought some water. But little acid reflux, that was unusual. And so I'm real distracted. But I want to finish this. So you have um it's definitely going to be shortened though. I lost my train of thought. All right, let's think. Swallow. And nasty, isn't it? So let's do. It's not nasty. It's that's natural, right? Natural. I hate that this kind of pause right here, but try to make it funny. I'm just my brain is dead right now. So, and I'm trying to stay. This is the camera picture I planned, so I'm staying right here. I'm not showing much personality. I'll do that in some other video. Anyway, I guess I have to close it, but this is something to ponder what people go through when they're robbed. So, back during slavery, slaves were robbed of their rights to have private property rights. But black Democrats today are voting for everybody to not have private property rights. When you vote Democrat, you're voting against private property rights. You're voting for immigrants to come over and take your housing, illegal, like in droves. You're voting to have immigrants do what you say we did to Indians. So you're trying to do that, and a lot of you do it, and you think you're doing it to get rid of white people or whatever. What you're doing, you're getting rid of any freedoms you have. And the Indians didn't have a border wall. They didn't have a society like we have. We do have an established society, and it welcomes our Indians, and it actually pampers our Indian. I mean, it gives them a lot of stuff. It does, but and a lot of Indians have joined in our society. But then there's the ones who are going to buy into the lies and act like things happen the way they say it happened. It didn't happen like that. None of it happened that way. There's a few small people who had disagreements, fight, and all this kind of stuff. It didn't happen the way they said it did. Slavery didn't happen the way they say it did, but because it originates in Africa. I don't, people will argue that and they'll get mad about that, but most of it's in Africa. I'll put it like that. Even now, most of it is still in Africa. In India, actually, India. I don't know who the leading slave countries are right now. India's, I've heard, maybe number one, and Africa, I know that in Nigeria it's really bad. So I haven't studied too much. I can't say too much on it later. I have seen videos of them chopping heads off, throwing them in ditches, chopping the head off, throwing them in a ditch, piling them up in piles. I've seen videos like that in Africa, and that's Islamic slave masters, black Islamic slave masters, chopping the heads off of other black people who are Christian or and other reasons. I guess maybe I don't know what I don't they didn't explain the whole video, but it sure was pretty bad, and it was during Black Lives Matter marches, and they wasn't saying a word about that. That is not happening in America. Not like that. There's nothing, never been a mass murder like that in America ever. They took, you know what? They killed almost. They were killing if they did that for 2 days, 3 days, they would have killed almost as many people in 2 or 3 days in Africa just a few years ago, and they've done a lot since. I don't know how many, but they would have killed as many as were killed in 40 years, in 70 years, in 2 or 3 days, 4 days. At the rate they were doing that, they would have killed as many black people in Africa as they've killed as the KKK killed in 70 years. That's to put it in perspective. So the Black Lives Matter thing, there's white people aren't killing black people today. They haven't been for a long time. I mean, if somebody starts a fight and then you act like and a black person starts a fight with a white person and they lose and get killed, that's not white people going out and killing black people. That the black person played a role in that. So if that happens like that, and there are black people killing white people, there's definitely and they definitely threaten it a lot. And if I bring this up, they're like, "Well, you're still alive." I've said it before, and they're mad that I'm alive to say that to defend myself, and they're like, "Well, we need to kill you." They're telling me that, right? But basically, indicating they need to kill me because how dare I be alive and allowed to speak when we've killed so many of them, which isn't true. We haven't killed that many of them, than white people, and even the KKK didn't kill uh, as many as they act like. They killed way too many. One is way too many. One is way too many, and they want to kill them. Those groups that want to kill me for acting like one isn't. Even one is okay. I'm not acting like anything's okay. That's their lie. I'm not acting like it's okay, but I'm saying you're acting like it's okay to kill white people by me saying that your story's not as true as it is because all you're trying to do is validate killing white people by saying they did more than they did and all this kind of thing. But by the way, you don't care. You'll kill You're killing your own people. You're sitting here ignoring. You're sitting here letting all these people get killed by your gangs and stuff like that. While you're ignoring that, you're letting more of them get killed, and we're trying to stop it. And you won't even let us speak on it because you have this. The media has your side and it won't let us speak. The people who want to help that, you don't even let the black people speak in the Republican Party who want to bring attention to how many black people are getting killed by gang violence. And you're playing a role in killing black people, where you're telling me that I don't care that some white people killed black people. Well, no, I'm part of the party that stopped that, by the way. So we stopped that. We stopped the slavery. I did. I did the stuff I believe and support. Stopped it. The Democrat Party continued it, just like they're continuing the gang violence. They're promoting it. They didn't just continue it. They promoted it. They've made it look sexy, and they've used girl power to promote gang violence. Girl power, attraction power, to make guys feel good for having all the beauty of some of the ones that know how to, the ones that like to use their beauty, you know. So for vain things, we'll call it. What's a woman's beauty supposed to do? It's supposed to bring peace to their man. Make them feel it makes them feel at home. Well, I'm choking, but I'm not getting I'm not getting emotional about that. I'm choking. But there's a lot to the psychology of what God created, But a woman can actually bring has a power, their beauty and their attraction to a man and thinking he's cute or handsome, whatever that extra stuff is outside the spiritual connection. There's a lot of there's a lot of it keeps them interested in each other because it's hard to be best friends with somebody, a man and a man, to be best friends. You grow up and you have your best friend, and or a few people that could be are among your best friends, and a female has their best friends, but you know you can only be around your best friend so much. You can't be intimate with. There's at some point I'm not going to say it gets boring, but I won't go into that analysis. But that they there's an intimacy that comes with the having a baby together. Intimacy that comes with being able to sleep together, and it's nothing wrong with it because God allows it. And then you have that attraction to do it. But you know, generally you don't want to hug on everybody. You're thinking of germs and everything else, but in a monogamous relationship, you actually build up an immunity to each other's um, bacteria, the natural bacterias. So God created it that way. So you're comfortable cuddling and all that with the person you love, and it's attractive. You fall in love with their little uh, uh, whatever their beauty mark is. So mine is, if you want it to be, it's that dimple right there that doesn't exist. So you have, but when you're in a relationship, you you proper relationship, then a natural proper relationship. Nope, I'm not picking on the other ones, but other types of attractions. I'm not. That's not the discussion here. But I'm talking about the magic that is in the natural realm. All right, so we steal that away. We're robbing people of that by not being telling the truth. So there's all kinds of ways to be robbed, and then you're robbing people, gay people, of uh, by not telling the truth, and then by being overly judgmental, you're robbing gay people of the way to get to know themselves properly, the way God wants them to know themselves. So there are people who have those attractions. They didn't just work hard to have them. Now some people do work hard to have other attractions, what I would call alternative methods, alternative love, I'll call it, because for many reasons, because they couldn't find a girlfriend like me. I couldn't find a girlfriend. So alternative intimacy, love would be it could be like if you're in a drunken state, a temptation to explore just for the entertainment. It's not for love, but you're kind of hoping to find love. If love comes out of that kind of thing. Those things are alternatives to what's natural. And for people who had gay tendencies from a young age, a lot of them did not use their scientific mind and sophisticated psychology to come up and force that on themselves. They actually had those tendencies already, but they can learn that it's not convenient for the success of peaceful living or eternal living and or eternally minded people and people who want to grow the family and love God, really love God's ways. So it's not so strange though. We act like it's strange. It's not strange. Some people act like it's strange, and even the people who promote it say, well, they're documenting it as we're not gonna we're gonna make it strange, and then not make it strange by making it be the norm and try to make straight people look strange. And if they don't obey us, they want to be a dictator. They're playing games. By the way, it's just that's a tough one, but that's stealing. That's stealing real natural blessings and a natural peace, a natural awareness of life, real life, and life after death, and trying to play games with life on this earth, which is a short life. That's the point. So it's a short life. So why explore my creative imagination? You know, you know, why why put a wig? I can't find a girlfriend who's nice in today's world, right? That's me too. I can't find one who I would trust or is nice. There's other issues. I've run into me. I haven't been personally to where I've been settled enough or cut up, recovered from my own problems. I'll say, which started in college. If I would have skipped college, I'd be married and have kids a long time ago, right? But seriously, I think I would. I'm almost positive. But that's okay because it's worked out that this world's big with a lot of lies and problems, and I can Easter egg hunt to solve all the stealing that's gone on, all the lies that have gone on. I could go all day, every day with no sleep, the rest of my life probably, and not catch up and inform everybody. This was a lie. 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 I could keep doing that, keep on, and it's hard for me to stop and sing a song because I could just keep doing that every day, all day, every day, and uncover lies from 100 years ago, all that are going every day, and we're brainwashed. That's why we're brainwashed. So the point is, I forgot the other point to that, but the point is that life is short, and it's the next one that matters. It doesn't matter that I didn't have a family. I wanted to have a family in my from 20 years old on to 40 and be able to see my grandkids and still be healthy for them and even see my great grandkids. I wanted to do that at age 16. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't have a girlfriend. I knew that's what I wanted to. I wanted to find a girlfriend, and I expected to find one if I got a job and started building a house, building houses. I mean, I wanted to build houses. I wanted to build houses. I expected I could find a girlfriend doing that, and I would qualify to. And most of them say that's what qualifies you. If you're able to build a house, support having a house. If I'm building houses, it's going to make money, right? So, but I knew I didn't necessarily. I went to college. I dated somebody in college, but I knew I didn't exactly qualify to date her and look to get married to her when I'm losing money in college. But they were going to put all, and I still can't fathom that gambling on my college degree that it's going to make me money and that qualifies me to be with this girl, and I don't have one penny to show for it yet, right? And I'm not saying you have to pay to marry somebody. I do like a genuine relationship that's not about the money and all that, but you got to show Papa, you know. And the women, a lot of them are already ready for you to show you're making money. I agree with that part way, you know. So I think, that, but I do think it matters if you have a good work ethic. That matters the most. And but really, I'm a guy that can't be fake. Well, superficial about making money. If I'm going to make money, it's for making money. If I'm going to do this, I'm not making money doing this. I'm not trying to make money doing what I'm doing right now. And then there's a few reasons for that. I might do it later. I might make money later, but I want to do. There's mm, get my budgeting practices together better before I would make any extra money. There's other things. I want it to be genuine. I want it to have a good foundation. I'm singing a lot of hymns right now. In the future, I might use that, and I might be able to travel and use that as a reference to say, look, I can sing a little bit. You want me to sing for you? Whatever. And then you might make money off of that. I might make new songs. But for now, I have goals to introduce hymns to the world. I've found that there's other people that sing hymns, mostly choirs. But I want to do a study of the hymns and make them more familiar to people. And it's free. I mean, the ones that are certain dates before 1928, I can do that for free. And um, stealing. I got to end this video because it's gonna run out of time, and that happened the other day. But for time's sake, and I'm recording it on my phone, and it doesn't do an hour, so I might still have a few minutes. But I didn't mean to get caught too long on that, but it connects they all tie into the same subject. It kind of leads me down rabbit trails, but those rabbit trails are connected to you know to the water. They all lead to the water somewhere. So you got but we should ponder the victim. One reason I wanted to make this video is because victims do exist. So, and I didn't finish the point. They talk like the victims don't exist because we pretend that we're enslaved, legally enslaved. So we do have slaves today, but they're not legally, contractually enslaved. Now they're very stuck into slavery because their lives are in danger if they try to escape and all that. And some people scoff at that when I say that. It doesn't matter. You should do right no matter what. I've heard of that way too much. That might be like a Pharisee mind, or I don't know what you call that. But it's inconsiderate. It's not compassionate. And you got to be careful being compassionate too. I've been the compassionate type, and became and ended up taking the whip with a lot of slaves. For real. But I've ended up taking the whip for slaves. I mean, I'm not gonna, and so I've refused to call myself a slave and be a victim, and I've escaped uh, being stuck under any contracts. Right. So there are some contractual slaves, and sometimes that's be joining a gang. In a sense, that's a contract you signed with, and you put yourself in. But everybody didn't put themselves in that either. So, but our system supports that, and the drug laws support that stuff, and the demonizing of it. It's the lies. The root causes are the lies, and the lies steal. The lies allow a lot of people to steal. So you steal small things from people, and it can keep them on a lower level. It can keep people depressed. Well, that's their fault if they got depressed. No, they shouldn't have been robbed. They should be protected. They shouldn't have to keep buying and losing and buying and losing and become a dollar slave to buying and losing stuff, or being a slave to people. People always stealing the stuff they have. Let me tell you something I lost. I have a brain tumor diagnosed in December. I ordered the CD with my so I could see it, look it up, and look at the picture myself and see how bad it is. Well, that was lost and stolen, basically. I won't explain that. It wasn't directly stolen, but it was left behind when there was a robbery going on somewhere. And I was in a place where I don't know what happened to the other white person who was there. I don't know if he's dead or stabbed. I don't know. I left the scene, left my stuff behind, and I never saw the picture of my tumor. So, and they got it. I saw one of the gangsters. It was by close to a bus station, and my books were taken. I lost a backpack. I had a backpack at the time, so I'm moving around in that position sometimes. So you lose what vitamins, you lose stuff. People lose stuff like that, right? And so it's happened to other people more than it's happened to me. Actually, a lot of people who that's happened to, they don't even. They just a lot of the people you see live in tents and things, in tent cities. I mean, a lot of people live in tents in the woods sometimes that you don't see, but tent cities. Some of them have given up on trying to get stuff, have stuff. backpacks, even, because they've been stolen that much. They're just, it's gonna get stolen. Why get it? Why carry? Why have anything? Why have deodorant? It's gonna get stolen. So we've created that society. I mean, people on the outside have created, qualified that society, that they be robbed, and then they want to act like, oh, these people just want drugs and they just want this and that. Well, no, they're stuck there because they can't keep their property. So private property rights. Why would you vote away your private property rights? That makes no sense. You're stealing from yourself. You're voting to steal from. You're voting to have the government steal from everybody, including you. You still have a path out of that. So that's real. You're real. You've been a true victim, and everybody's spit on it. And you hear people on the Republican side actually say there's no such thing as a victim, and that doesn't sound good. But what they're really preaching at usually is you're not a victim of slavery from back then, back 200 years ago, and you better wake up. And they don't realize they haven't been in these situations or understand being a victim of theft, and accept that they're victim of a lot of them are the Republicans are victims of having their words stolen, their words muted, and actually the stuff they say, if you got to hear most of it, they do say stuff when they say there's no victims that might help a lot of people tune out and not listen to them anymore. And then, but the truth is, most of what they say is good. And if you would take time to listen and get past that, you need to hear the good stuff, or listen to a different Republican than the one that you heard say that, one that doesn't talk about there's no victims all the time. Because the truth is, there are, and but it's not. You're not a victim of slavery from 200 years ago. That's not what you're a victim of. You're a victim of Democrats still trying to make it happen today, and then you're playing along with it. But and you're a victim. People are a victim of the felony um, status that stops them from getting jobs, stuff like that. That's a true victim if it can be overplayed. Um, being especially if it's for a petty crime. Uh, Now the other victims. Now if you steal from somebody, you steal from a store. They should create a system where you have to pay the store back. You have to pay the person back, and then you're free though. That's a lot quicker than having to go through the system. It also uh, it makes up your friendship, makes you able to have a friendship with stores again, with people again, or not be on bad terms, even if you still need to stay away from them and go your separate ways. It should it cleans your chart. It gives you a truly clean chart. So people go to jail, they serve their time, they think that cleans their slate, no call it, and but it doesn't if insurance pays it back. It doesn't in some ways. You still have to wonder if somebody's going to take revenge on you. I mean, I don't know how some people get away with stealing and think nobody's going to just. They've stolen for people stole from me, and I didn't come back and take revenge. But um, how many people? And I haven't even had people prosecuted or anything because I don't agree with. I think our system's messed up, right? I just want if the police if would police go and have people pay me back, I might would consider it then. But the problem is that stealing uh, groups are so large that if I did that, even if that was done properly, some of them would understand it. But they're so big, they would probably have me killed, right? Try to kill me for even if it was proper at this point. So they shouldn't be so validated in what they do. But they have such large groups that validate what they do, and they also validate it because a lot of them validate it because they say, well, white people stole everything from us. No, they didn't. It was Africa stole originally from uh from Civil War. I forgot to mention earlier. Most of the slaves they sold were thieves, and I won't say most were thieves and killers. The other part of the rest of them were usually Civil War uh, prisoners of war. So they're prisoners of war, and in that case, those were noble people who have followed dignity and went to war. Apparently, usually a soldier is a pretty noble person, dignified person. Maybe sometimes some of them like to fight or whatever, but But they weren't there because they stole. They weren't taken prisoner because they stole from people or were killing people outside of war. So they weren't a murderer. So but they sold their prisoners of war, and that's why how you got a mixed culture in the black community too, even amongst the slaves. You got noble slaves who were prisoners of war. I've never put this into words here or thought of it particularly, but because we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to. Well, the truth is, if you look at that history, you had noble people who were sold into slavery because they were prisoners of war. Africa sold them into slavery, and they probably promoted it. I don't know. It seems they did, right? So there's some slave dealers are here in our politics. They're the black people in the top of the Democratic Party. They're probably descendants, a lot of them, of the slave dealers, the black slave dealers in Africa. You ever consider that? You need to. Well, their philosophy is that with whether they were or not, their philosophy they've adopted their philosophy. So they've sold everybody into the gang culture. I mean, they've sold you on it. It's brainwashing, and they've qualified it, and they lie about slavery in the past. Who did it? They pretend like Republicans had something to do with it. They admit it. Now, if you catch them on it, they admit it because they know they can't defy that history. Now they'll change the history. They didn't end slavery because they wanted to end slavery. So these truths are being stolen, and this all connects. That's why I'm talking about it. But and it brings it from another angle. It's a lot to ponder and realize. But is it important to know these things? It's important to know we're lied to. Um, So the point is, I could do my whole. The point I forgot earlier was I could say there's a lie, there's a lie, there's a lie my whole life, and the truth is, I didn't have time to get married. If I wanted to do that, and I'm building, you know what? I'm getting paid by God, in my view. I'm building a mansion in heaven for every lie I uncover. Now had I have sins, and I've lost rewards. I believe I get rewards in heaven. That's what. How do I do all this? How do I do this study for free? You know, and why do I want it to be free instead of getting with a team? Because I still want to navigate and put more pieces of the puzzle together that I couldn't do if I was distracted by having to follow up schedule with other people and be preoccupied all the time. And one of the reasons I do this is because everybody's preoccupied with a lot of things, and so who else can think up this stuff? I mean, not too many people. I mean, you got some geniuses that they can see what I'm saying and they can run it through real fast. And then some of them, their spirit will tell them to lie about it right away. Use that to their advantage to trick people, block them from learning it. So I can bully these people and get money. Some of them geniuses will do that just in 2 seconds. They're like, why does he keep repeating it and going down this analysis? He just gave me that clue and now I know. So you got those people, but the fact is they're not connecting every dot when they do that, no matter how smart they are. They just take something and they know how to sell it because they know they stereotype too. The geniuses that I know, they're prone to stereotype more than people who are not the super smart, like valedictorian types. When I say genius, because I do think I'm a genius, but I'm joking. Everybody has a genius. When you seek wisdom, that's genius. But when you seek God's wisdom, so um, so that's an analysis. So the genius of these guys that are valedictorian types, they'll take the term genius, they'll memorize what they need to for the SAT test. But I'm challenging whether the SAT test, people who made them, are right, in their definition of genius. And so, and I'm finding out that they're wrong a lot of times. That I got a better definition or a higher up or a more broad definition. So that includes there is more genius out there than what they've put out because the real genius is God. He's the author of genius. So I do if I had a genius about me, it is the endurance and ability to want to keep uh, navigating navigating truth and where there's a lot of lies. And I have a long attention span for that when I get into it, especially. Sometimes I don't, right? I'm ready to switch gears at some point. But I definitely have, that's a genius in a way. wish I had a better way of remembering it. Wish I don't have that type of genius to where I can remember it, remember names, remember dates too well. So I do summarize it and I look at the try to remember the key points and I do a good job of that. So I'm not so upset that people stole from me. And so I couldn't look. I didn't mean to put me in this actually, but the fact is, you steal from a guy more than a woman. It's not quite the same, but it can happen with a woman too. But you steal from a man, and he can't get a girlfriend, or he can't go on a date. He can't drive and pick up somebody to take him on a date. Steal their money, that he can't take a woman out on a date and get to know him, and it's not as appealing. So it's hard to find a girlfriend for a guy who's been robbed. Whereas a girl who's been robbed, I'm not saying to rob women because it doesn't hurt them, but they can still they have a capability of finding a successful man somewhere. But a guy has no guys today they can find a successful woman, and a lot of guys do that, I guess. But if a woman wants, if there's women that view themselves as a rescuer, and sometimes that works out. I'm not a guy that thinks that you know there's guys that lose jobs. They had a job and they lost a job, couldn't find a job right away. They met a lady they dated. She's got a job. She's doing well. They went back and they got with her. At first, she's taking care of stuff mostly. He's chipping in where he can. Eventually, he gets a job and everything works out fine. That's ideal. That's works. That's okay, I think. But and that's so. And I disagree that it's not okay because who's perfect? I can't predict tomorrow. If you people who act like they can predict tomorrow, my time's going to run out. But people who predict tomorrow and say a guy always has to have this and that, that's BS. A lot of them, that's what leads people to kill folks to make sure they live up to that standard. That's what makes people lie about somebody to make them lose a job so they can keep the job. I'm not. You don't need to go to that extent to prove you're going to provide for your woman. You wait on God. You be patient. You keep doing. You take janitor job if you have to. You do what you have to do to have uh, legal income. Some legal income. Some people act like that's not fair. That's not just. But if it's government help you need for a little while or whatever, if it's legal, what's wrong with it? It's if they've offered it, but don't stop looking for work if you're capable of working. If you're not capable, if you even if you have a problem with losing money all the time to addiction, that's a reason not to work for money for a while until you feel why keep working that hard for money instead of studying your mind. Study your mind, study philosophy, be a student, do that kind of thing. Get a little money where you can, but not to where you're gonna. Why make $1 million if you're just gonna lose it? So so but that doesn't mean you're not working. You're working on yourself during that time. You got to work on yourself. Quit letting people get to you for saying you're not working just because you're not making money. Be glad you're working on yourself and doing some things, but do it. So I forgot 20 points. I thought of 20 new points in that, but I don't want to get cut off without doing a conclusion, but I might. It might happen. So um, stealing led to all this. Lies are stealing. When you lie, you're stealing from somebody. You're stealing the truth. That's huge. So, but technically, yeah. On that last point, though, it's harder on a man to be robbed than it is on a woman, in a sense. As far as if they want to date, I'm saying, if you're gonna date somebody, it's hard for a man to date somebody if they've been robbed by people. And then, especially, and the problem is now you can, if our justice system did right and helped people who were robbed to be paid back what they lost, or at least in part, and make some peace, and then not be judged. People get judged and kicked down further for being robbed. I've never been stolen from before in my life. I said, really? Well, you must have killed somebody. I've had white people say that to me. I've never been in, nobody's ever robbed me before. I'm like, well, guess what? I've never hurt anybody before. So I said that to one person, and I thought that was going to start a fight. But he was ready to bully me. He's probably I've seen guys like that, white men who are serial killers. I've met some. I've been around the block, but I met one who turned out to be, I'm pretty sure, a serial killer. I have evidence that he was spiking people's drinks because he did it to me. but right there at a Publix. So yeah, if he's seeing this, he knows what I'm talking about. I got out of that situation, but um, so I've run into people I'm pretty sure are serial killers. That's because I do talk to strangers, but you know, um, I don't regret that. I don't regret my philosophy of being open and talking to people. But I had a lot to learn, going through that, and I'm still probably will do it more than other people, but I'm not. I've learned more and more what to stay away from and to be a snob and those kind of things. But I want my message, message of repentance, believing in Christ, salvation, heaven and hell. I want that for everybody, and I still want that to get out to everybody and to repent and I forgive. And but I don't want people out there, killers out there, just walking freely and continuing what they do. I do think they should be figured out, found out, figured out, at least rebuked, told to stop. I've met people who kill folks or have claimed they've killed folks, and I rebuke it. I tell them, well, well, God let Cain live, but you need to. That's not something. I'm not going to qualify that. I mean, for any reason, I think y'all say not to go to the police. That's one reason. Those are reasons to go. The police are supposed to do their job right on this and handle killers and people like that. And we should go to them instead of doing vigilante justice. We shouldn't. I don't believe in taking revenge and just killing somebody because a lot of times you kill somebody who's not even guilty, and that's what I've told some killers that I've met. And you know, and I haven't, and people do killers a lot. And it's not always the case, but a lot of killers they appreciate you talking to them candidly. They respect that. A lot of them. So cuts. A lot of killers are people who are just like church folks who are very judgmental and Pharisee style. So they qualify that, but when you stand up and tell them the truth, they don't like weak people. When I stand up and tell them the truth, they don't see a weak person actually. They don't see Donald Trump as a weak person. He's not a weak person. So he tells the truth. I'm not. He's not the same as me. I don't know if his character is the same as mine, or if he falls for some falsities in religion, and if his motives are 100% pure. But he at least puts good. He does do good things, and on a lot of things he holds the truth. I wouldn't know that unless I talked to him. I wouldn't know that, and then I'd have to decide if he's being sincere. If he's, I think he would. He wouldn't lie to me if he doesn't believe something. We have a discussion. I'm like, do you believe this? What do you really think about it? And I would want to be able to talk to him without him having to give a political answer as president. And I don't know if that's possible because he would have to assume I might be somebody who would go twist it. So I would want to talk to him on a level of his own explorations, what he's still exploring as far as what his true beliefs are in God. So that I would delve into the psychology, deep psychology on that, and that stuff. He just probably is wise not to answer some of those things. So could I even have that conversation with him? I think to a degree, I think I could figure out and say I think he's for real. He's real for real saved, and he didn't fall for somebody's false gospel. But I'm definitely about to run out of time. So I guess I just have to cut this short. So this is my conclusion. I had a few more points I forgot. I didn't get to. But so thou shalt not steal. God put it right there in the commandments. Thou shalt not covet. You shouldn't desire and want somebody else's car. You shouldn't want what somebody else's has and ask them. You shouldn't be even go to them and ask them, "Is your car for sale?" when you know it's not for sale. Those kind of things. That's an example, I guess, because you're coveting. Now, I'm not going to say you totally shouldn't, but you shouldn't do it pressuring. You shouldn't trick them into it. You shouldn't swindle them out of it. And that happens. That's coveting. And then and you certainly shouldn't play a trick and to get them to do it or pressure them. So it's not right because it's not love. So love your God and love your neighbor. Have no other gods before God. Love your neighbor. Those are his top commandments. All the other ones are built on it. So there are some gray areas, but that's how you figure out what. Sometimes you just leave something alone if you can't figure it out, whether it's a gray area or not, and move on and wait for what's right for you. Because guess what? I'm passing up a lot of stuff I've wanted right now to do this video, and it's because I think it matters a lot, and I think a lot of I believe in heaven and hell, I think people need the freedom to hear. I think people need the freedom to to grab a rope. This is a rope, somewhat. If they're about to slip off a cliff, and they need the freedom to see that a rope can know that a rope can save them. Like if they're about to slip off a cliff, some people don't know that. No, it's natural to you might be able to grab it and figure it out real quick, but they've probably never been seen it before or been taught it. And that's possible. But I'm saying in the spiritual realm, there's a lot of that, and it's a lot more of that where that we don't know. But I'm gonna just like the rope. So I'm gonna cut this short just so I don't get cut off. And God bless and rise with. And I hope this somehow has some good points and gets to some people or makes sense. At least it's on video. You can fast forward and look for various points in there and catch some good points and some blooper points too, I guess. But God bless.